All right, so we're live, midnight Phoenix, Arizona time, and 5 p.m. Australia time. And
well, one part of Australia.
Yes, yeah. This part.
Which part of Australia?
This is Brisbane.
Brisbane. All right. So the EduTech AU hashtag conference, and we've got a boatload of people there that we know, lots of colleagues, and a few have joined me on a Google Hangout to give us a recap of all the fun and exciting activities. So let's just go right down the line, and everybody just give a quick introduction of yourselves. We'll start with Con.
Hello everyone, Con here. I wasn't at the conference, but I've been curating and following the back channel very actively, so that's me.
All right, Con, and where are you located?
Sorry, I'm in Melbourne, Australia, so I'm further south from where those guys are at the moment, and we are all on the same time now. Daylight savings ended, so we're all on same God's time.
Outstanding. All right, Joyce, you're up.
Me. Okay. I'm Joyce Seitzinger. You might know me as Pajamas and I'm usually in Melbourne, but now up here for this, and this is my first time at AU. We've got other guys joining us. Sorry.
Yes. So the late Harold Jarkey and the late Simon Terry have joined us. Are you putting that to a vote, Harold?
Election in my election.
Hey, Harold, how's it going?
No, he can't. Harold can't hear you.
Oh, all right. Wave at him for me and say, hey, Brent says hey.
Brent says hey, Harold. So I guess that leaves me in the interim.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark. You're up.
Yeah, last but not least. Yes, I'm Mark Shepard. I'm the training coordinator at Northern Lights Canada in beautiful sunny Oshawa, Ontario. And I was speaking here at EduTech on the workplace learning track.
All right. I'm switching my microphones here real quick just to see if I can get rid of some of that echo. It might be my fault.
Okay.
Very likely to be our fault.
Yeah, that's possible. We may have a critical mass of microphones going on here.
All right. I think we're a little bit better now. All right, so let's do this. So I don't know if you guys have any notes with you or anything, but let's dial this thing all the way back to the very beginning, and just somebody jump in and just tell me a little bit about maybe what your expectations were coming into this event, and then we can go into kind of some of the speakers you heard, some of the key messages and things like that.
You're expecting us to be really coherent after 2 days of being inundated with information.
Yes, and you're assuming that was the first beer. Actually, Brent, it might be helpful to back up and give people a sense of what the EduTech conference is down here, because for North American audiences, this isn't going to be something that they recognize.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I guess that's sort of what I mean. So because I don't really know either, so if you guys can kind of just fill me in and give us a quick overview of what the event is.
Sure. EduTech is the largest education congress in Australia. It brings anywhere between 5,000 to 8,000 people into Brisbane for this event. They have a number of streams that are available for the participants. The bulk of the participants or delegates come here operate in the K-12 space, higher education, tertiary education, and so on. And there's people like leaders, they have teachers, they have IT folks. And these students are the workplace learning and the vocation educational training streams. This is where Joyce and I were operating for most of this session. And so they run it over 2 days, and the format's a little bit different than what we would have experienced with things like LSCon or DevLearn and possibly ATD. Speakers who come here are expected to do TED-style talks. So that's the biggest difference in a lot of these sessions. So in traditional talk, let's have some PowerPoint. They want people to story. The timelines are very, very specific. A little bit longer than TED. You're given about 30 minutes. And they work really hard to try to program the talks so that there are some common themes, there's some common messages that get included in here. And so it's not like a lot of the concurrent session events that you would see, say, at DevLearn or LSCon, where you are having to speak, having your participants jumping between rooms and losing the energy from space to space. I found it was very different here. And Joyce, I don't know if this is your experience as well, but what I really like is that we had a common conference chair, and that was Simon Terry. So Simon took time to actually weave together all the talks that were happening and drawing out the messages and sharing that were being said, and it's very different. So now you get a little bit of chance to reflect on the experience, hear the common messages, instead of saying, "Oh God, I got to move off to my next session." So I think there's something to be learned for North American conference organizers for an event like this. How's it? Did I miss anything, Joyce?
No, that sounds good.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that side of things as well. I really enjoyed the everybody who is in the same stream having that same experience. I did suffer a little bit from FOMO in that there were things happening in higher ed space, which I previously worked in and which I still work in, and also in the BET space, which is like, would it be like college space? Yeah.
Probably college, but
Vocational.
more like apprenticeship programs and very work-focused.
Yeah, very work focused. Anyway, there were great speakers in every single one of those streams.
Oops. Yeah. Hey, Mark. Oops. Hold on a second. I'm trying to unmute you.
Can you hear me there, Brent?
Oh yeah, I can hear you, Con. So why don't you kind of fill in how are you following the back channel, Con? You know, and that she mentioned a lot of the tweeting going on and everything. What was your take on the back channel from where you were sitting?
Look, I used a couple of applications. I used TweetDeck to follow it. I also used the application called Eventifier. I was going to suggest, Joyce, and you're right about that. There was nearly 3,000. What have we got here? We've got over 3,000 contributors and around 16,000 tweets for the 2 days, which is a really sizable amount. The only thing I think and Mark, you talked about American conferences and those type of things. I think the only thing that I don't see happening often in the Australian sort of conference field is having dedicated personnel who can tweet/blog particular sessions live. It doesn't take much to do that, and yeah, all you got to do is just reach out to a few people, and they're happy to oblige. And as well as having individual hashtags for sessions, that way you can focus in and sort of target a particular session.
Oh, somebody, Joyce, tell Mark to unmute.
There we go. Am I on now?
Yeah, now you're on. You're good.
Okay. All right. So I think that's an important thing to look into the future for conferences, because it's really hard to try to say, oh, I got to capture that, I got to tweet that, especially when you're in such a constrained format like this one, where they're saying go TED style, tell a story, and you want to capture something and get it out, and then you're afraid you're going to miss it.
Right.
And it's hard to do that as a participant. And I mean, I wasn't really here as like for my own PD per se, but for the people who are, that's got to be hard for them. So having somebody dedicated to doing that capture, and also taking the time to do a little bit of analysis. So it's almost like you'd be operating almost like a radio show producer. So what you were doing in the background was really, really helpful, but it's different if you've got somebody on the ground. I think it's one of the few times, Joyce, where having the physical presence would make a really, really big difference. So, but the concept.
Yeah, that's right, Mark.
Yeah, great.
You're right. Yeah, no, you're right. I've seen that. I've seen it happening with Learning Live in the UK. Does it very well. If you ever want to look at, and it's coming up. That's our colleagues with the LPI. They have dedicated bloggers / tweeters for each session, and they actually do some analysis and provide, because they're LD professionals themselves, provide a bit of an insight over and above to what maybe the individual they do think on their feet, and provide additional information. I think that's where it's going on. I think, Joyce, you make a very good point there about the future of conferences. Imagine the audience you can capture by the social stream and the impact your conference can have. Okay, they've got to make money. They're in the business of making money. They've got to sell, but all the add-on products they can develop as a result of just having that virtual online presence. But anyway, I think that's where to go to in the future.
Well, I think one of the things that is going to be emerging for conferences to address in some fashion, I'm not necessarily talking about solve a problem, but with tools like Periscope and Meerkat, and because now conferences are saying, okay, great, you've got Wi-Fi. So then how do they balance the value proposition of saying, okay, we want you to pay to come to this conference, but then you can have somebody up there with their phone doing a Meerkat stream or a Periscope stream, so that somebody who's not part of the conference, who isn't paying for it, can see almost the same thing. I don't think there's an easy answer to how that's going to get addressed, but that's definitely on the horizon. I think there were a couple of little Periscope streams, but that's going to change the nature of conferences.
Yeah, I forgot.
I think in a pretty big way.
Yeah, I forgot to open up Periscope and Meerkat during this particular event, but I was going to ask you guys if a couple of them went. But I've been thinking a lot about that, actually, as far as how it's going to impact events in the future. And quite honestly, I don't really think it is, because I think the video is so jerky when somebody's just trying to hold their camera, and it's so small.
Yeah.
The quality is.
Well, I think one of the biggest drawbacks from those streams at the moment is the fact that they are not predictable. So somebody just whips out their mobile phone and starts it, and at the moment there isn't a good discovery model on Periscope for saying, I want to follow this hashtag.
Yeah. Drop. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Mark, I muted you, Mark, when Joyce was talking because that echo jumped back up. So when you guys are jumping back and forth, if you're not talking, go ahead and mute yourself because that will take care of the echo. But now you gotta unmute yourself.
Form of the conference?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to make one final comment about that and just say that I don't think any of these technology tools are ever going to replace the face-to-face that you get when you go to an event. So I really don't think. I think as much as people worry about it, I really don't think it's going to be an issue. People are still going to want to go live to events.
I'm taking a wait and see on it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, for an organization like CSTD, for example, because they very rarely have Wi-Fi for their conferences, much to the chagrin of the participants.
Right.
I don't think that's going to be an issue, particularly because data rates are so high in Canada. Nobody's going to burn up their data to do a Meerkat stream or a Periscope stream. One thing I do want to add before we get into some of the substance of the conference, Brent, is the timelines for the talks were very, very tight, and so you don't get time to do reflection between sessions. So that's a bit of a drawback. There's also fewer opportunities that I found for networking amongst, and maybe it's just me because I was just focused on the talk.
Yeah.
But I didn't find that there was a lot of opportunities for networking amongst the delegates here. It is very vendor focused. So you will spend a lot of time in the vendor areas. The meals are in the vendor area and all that kind of stuff. And the vendor area is huge. It is probably twice the footprint of LSCon.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's massive.
Well, it's huge. I mean, with 8,000 attendees, I can only imagine what the expo looks like.
Well, and you see that it's very diverse because they're catering to K-12 as well. So they've got people in selling school desks, school lockers, academic software, anti-plagiarism, security systems for schools. I saw some of those vendors, and then you get people out on the technical extremes. There were vendors who were selling 3D printers to schools. There was another company here which totally got into my EdTech geek heart. The robots, the Romo robot, which uses an iPod Touch into a robot. You learn the fundamentals of programming and you learn math along with it, which is something that's going to be purchased for schools. They're launching. It's a UK company, but they're launching it soon. And I entered a contest because I want to win one of these things and give it to my kid's school if I can pull it off.
Yeah, no doubt.
It is just phenomenal. And I'll post some pictures. And I'm actually going to. Yeah.
I know it's mostly geared towards education, but what would you say the percentage of kind of that corporate training or a corporate education audience is, if any?
10% maybe. I think we had maybe about 100 and some odd people in our room. Would that be about right? Okay, yeah, so about 100 people. Okay. I don't know about vocational education, but I think that was smaller. I think that might have been 60 to 70 at most.
It does market itself a lot to the education sector. That's its big market. That's where its focus is. I think the workplace learning was added on the last number of years because they saw some sort of overlap and opportunity, but it was predominantly an education type focus conference.
Yeah, that's the feeling I got, at least from all of the Twitter stream coming out and all of the different folks that were on there as I was looking at different profiles and whatnot. It definitely had a very strong teacher, school administrator focus for sure from an attendee perspective.
And the pictures you see of the setup of this big hall and Sir Ken Robinson on the stage, that's not where we were.
Oh, okay.
We were sort of in your typical large conference room. So that's where a lot of the K-12 folks resided.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. So so jump into some of the content. So what was your if there was one main theme from the event, what would you say that was?
For me, one of the things that I noticed is that a lot of the messages we have repeated over the years, L&D needs to be, to be leading transformation. L&D needs to be helping to guide the business, being an agent of change. Start kicking the ass of the status quo and get rid of it. Stop producing the same cookie cutter crap clickware that's coming out. That was one of the key messages. So on one hand, one thing I noticed that it's a bit of shared misery between us in North America and the folks in this part of the world, that they're dealing with the same problems that we do, and in some cases, and also in parts of Europe. But it alarms me a little bit that 5-10 years on, we're still saying the same stuff.
Yeah.
So it's either not sinking in, or we need to change the message. I think it was the biggest thing that resonated with me, and a lot of the talks that happened over this course. Starting with Harold's opening keynote for workplace learning, talking about agencies of change, catalysts for change, and driving new ways of thinking. It's stuff that we have to continue doing. But if somebody from the outside was saying, okay, you guys are still hearing this 5-10 years later, are you just not getting the message? We are, but then it raised the question, what the heck are we fighting against?
Yeah, I think we're in a bit of a comfort zone in L&D. I don't think the urgency is hit our bottoms at the moment. So I think it's a bit of just continue doing as we're doing, because the organisation is happy with what they're getting, and that's about it. So
yeah,
I heard a lot. Yep, go for it. Bruce, I get a sense that predominantly the people in this area don't embrace a lot of that new world. I don't know if it's a fear. I don't know if it's a concern. Could be a skill. I just think majority of us are preaching the message. The followers are not coming along because they're just sort of saying, "What are you on? What did you have? What have you been eating?" It just, for them, it's a bit foreign. Why is that happening? What's the concern there? What do you think? What can we do to get these followers on board? Because they're just not embracing social media, social learning, virtual learning, online learning. It's just not been embraced.
And I'd like to jump in with one thing, because this was the talk that stood out for me, and it was an example of L&D getting involved in a non-traditional space and doing something really impressive. Konstantin Onagarzos works for a company called Medibank, or an organization called Medibank, and the activity was nominally a facilities and operations move because they were bringing people from a whole bunch of different buildings into a single facility. They built a new building and said, okay, so everybody's not going to be working out of this one head office. And normally that would be just to pack your stuff in the box and move to the new building. But what they wanted to create, without taking anything away from Con's talk, they wanted to create like new dynamic workspaces. So Brent, you've probably seen pictures of like some of the like the design school spaces at Stanford where they talk about like the reconfigurable spaces, open office concept. If there was a flavor of a workspace for people to explore, it exists in this building. And so it became a culture exercise for them. And so he got involved in that, and he tied the learning into, hey, let's adopt a new workplace culture. So do you want to work by yourself? Do you want to work with others? And etiquette questions, like, hey, you're working in this space, and somebody decides to take a phone call. Are you going to take a phone call? And there was also massive technology investment. So they said, okay, you're going to get an iPad. You have a guided audio tour. You're going to walk through the building and learn about the different spaces and things like that. It was absolutely amazing to see that role for L&D in a really non-traditional environment. And it was one of the few kind of tools leaning talks that we saw in this. So that was actually kind of nice that there was very little focus on tools. But it was one that was really appropriate. And so if you get a chance to check out his work, it was really, really impressive. And like I said, that's the one that resonated with me the most.
Tell me again. Tell me his name again, and tell me what tool was he talking about? Do you mean tool as in using the space as a tool, or what are you referring to specifically?
No, I'm talking about like authoring.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So his Twitter ID is @Consta Solutions. That's Consta with a C, and he's Ongarezos. And I've apologized to him twice for mispronouncing his name. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very dynamic guy, very, very high energy guy. Did a fantastic talk, and this was it was a culture exercise, but it was about getting buy-in to like a new way of working, because the organization said, okay, like we've had people all over the place. We want to find ways to improve because they're a health company. They said, health should be at the core of what this building is. Employee health as much as the health of the people that we serve. So he actually had some numbers, Joyce. I don't know if you remember what they were, but so they did some surveys and said, we like working here. We've got a sense that you care about our well-being. There were reductions in absenteeism in the call center because they now had a better environment in which to work. People who were using Fitbits and stuff, they had stairs, so their step count started to climb, and people started taking their own health much better. And so then people who came into the organization after this move happened then got the in-doc. So you would have to complete the building in-doc as part of your orientation. And Steve Wheeler, aka Tim Buckteeth, was trying to horn in. Hang on, here we go. So Steve,
all right,
say hi to Brent, say hi to Con.
Hi everyone.
Hey Steve, how are you?
It's Brent. It's the first time I met you, Brent.
I know, this is amazing. It's like I've seen you, it's like we've known each other for years on the Twitters.
Say again.
And I said it's like we've known each other forever on Twitter.
I can't hear. I can't hear at all. We're at a bar.
Ah. Cheers.
You know all about that, right?
Get him some headphones.
And what's the other guy called?
That's
Con.
That's Con Sotitas.
Oh,
Learn Koch. Learn Koch.
Oh, you're both on Twitter, both of you guys,
Yeah.
That's right.
And we like him anyway.
We still love him, yeah.
Yes.
But Steve's been here before. Mark, going back to what you were saying, going back to what Mark was saying, Mark, is L&D got a new role, you think?
We're at a bar.
You had a bar. Okay, well, there goes that question.
Oh, there we go. There's the lag.
No, it's a good question. Con, it's a good question. So,
There we go. Joyce can relay.
We can relay your question.
I was just saying, following off what Mark was saying, it's a good point because I think L&D needs to start thinking about new business opportunities, new avenues to pursue, not just the traditional L&D ones. Mark talked about kind of his app around familiarising staff with the new building. I think it's a really good example of how L&D can move into a different space.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with both of you. I think the real question, to be perfectly honest, isn't necessarily about the training and traditionally what learning and development does. I think anything that the organization needs to help its employees improve better, we should be involved in. If if there's anything we can do to help them improve and be better at what they do for the company, we should be at the forefront of that. And if building a new environment or teaching people about the environment when they first come to work helps them work better, then by all means we should be driving that.
Yeah, I'd just like to jump in there. I totally agree, and I've been working together with someone at Michigan State University about
Yeah. Right. Right. Yep. Yeah, without a doubt. I think there's a whole lot of opportunity for us, for sure.
Back onto the conference, Mark and Joyce, was there much around, I noticed there was a lot around bending the rules and going that extra step and, being courageous. I saw a bit of Shannon's tweets, a bit of Michelle's tweets, being courageous, go out there and just do it and all that. But is there a lot of people sort of picking up that agenda? Did you find a lot of people saying, yeah, I'm with you, I'm right behind you, yes, I've got to be more like this? Or is it more like, I don't know, if organisation is
it was
ready for this yet?
interesting. I was talking to some teachers from New Zealand.
Yeah.
I agree with that. The other message that I think that came out loud and clear was about our ability to lead through influence and lead through expertise. Peter Baines talked about that in his talk, and he was not really an L&D guy. He was a leadership guy, sharing stories about the aftermath of the terrorist incident in Bali and the tsunami in Indonesia. He was a former longtime police officer, and he now does leadership work and things like that. And I think that we need to be able to lead with courage, lead without, he described as lead without authority. I think that was the term that he used, Joyce. And it ties actually in really well to, if you remember, there was a series of tweets that Aaron Silvers put out probably about a week ago. He had like 7 of them. Really just a call to arms for L&D. And I used one of them in my presentation. So I'll send Aaron an invoice. And I said, and it was about, instead of L&D, wishing they had a seat at the table, start with the assumption that you have it, and then what? And sometimes we feel like the ugly stepsisters of workplace learning and ugly sisters of organizations. Like, well, like what do these learning and training guys do? So I think there's a need for us to continue to demonstrate value, and if we're leading change, and we're driving change and taking advantage of like all those grassroots, positive subversive movements, and Shannon calls it positive deviance. And being a little bit being a little bit rebellious. I mean, because I think you need to say, you know what, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Let's see what happens. If we tried it and we failed, okay, but don't punish me for trying.
Right.
Yeah,
fail. It's funny what you.
What's the phrase? Is it? I'm trying to remember. It's fail fast, fail hard, fail often.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, fail fast, fail early, fail often. Yeah.
Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, and it's like Aaron had a great blog post today about exactly what you're talking about. So all those things that he had mentioned before, he worked up into a blog post. If you go check out makingbetter.us, he just blogged about all those things you were just saying, and reading through it and a lot more, and he makes the case so strongly and so well. I hadn't read anything that good in a long time, and it's one of those very inspirational sort of blog posts that you'll enjoy, and it'll make you feel good about your chosen profession again.
I'm gonna cut in here.
Oh yeah, okay.
We are getting the stink eye because we're not participating in the East Conference wind down.
All right. Well, hey, listen, you know what, you guys? I just want to say thank you so much for just participating for as long as you have. I really, really appreciate it. For us in the U.S., thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Did you record this, Brent?
Yeah, it's recorded.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So I'll push a link out, but just go back to the Hangout page, and you'll be able to see it and share it with others. But anyways, we'll let you guys go. Con, thank you so much.
Stay, Mark. Yep. Stay, Joyce. Stay, Mark. Stay, guys.
Thank you all.
Yep. Cheers.
Stay, Brett.